Welcome back to the Endurance Financial RGB Sports 1000 Championship. We find ourselves here at Silverstone, the home of British motorsports, for the latest encounter. Now, it was forecast rain. Fortunately, the sun's come out, got a dry track. Testing and qualifying was done in the wet. Billy Albone, who currently leads the championship, he's had electrical problems this morning. They're not too sure if they've solved the problem. He's third on the grid anyway. But Paul Smith, the person in second place in the championship, is on pole. So, who's going to take this one? Let's find out. Here's Andy McEwen with race one.
Cars on the grid, Anthony, ahead of our first race of the day, and it's Paul Smith from Christopher Wesamail on row 1, the pair of Mattels, ahead of the first of the Spires, Billy Albone with Daniel Lana alongside on row 2. Row 3 for Colin Chapman and Tim Hovard, with Colin Spicer and Mark Betts on row 4. It is going to be another pair of interesting races this weekend at Silverstone. Over 13 minutes plus 1 lap for the Endurance Financial RGB Sports 1000 Championship. Billy Albone on row 2, the championship leader. The lights go on, they go out. Now we're away in racing. It's a good start made from the inside of row 1 there by Wesamail. A bad start made further back from, I think that's Colin Spicer, and a really jumbled order as we rush down towards turn number 1. It's Daniel Lana that leads. It's Daniel Lana that grabs the advantage through Abbey Corner for the first time. The rest of them sailing on through, but these spectacular looking cars already in a very different order from the one in which they qualified. It side by side again for the race lead though. Paul Smith up the inside and retakes the lead away from Lana as they turn through the right-hander. Car number 2 running wide, that's David Watson, but he has gained some ground from where he started, but it is a Mattel 1-2-3, and the worst possible outcome there for Billy Albone, because his championship rival Paul Smith is leading, and to get to him he will have to negotiate 2 of his teammates, and actually he's a bit detached from those 3 anyway as they rush down the hill towards Stowe Corner for the first time. So it's Smith that leads the way. It's second place for Lana, it's third place for Wesamail, then it's Albone in 4th position as they turn through the right-hander at Stowe Corner. These are the quickest cars on the 750 Motor Club package, and we're seeing them at full stretch here in the dry conditions at Silverstone. Side by side there for the yellow car of Tim Hovard, and on the inside is the 63 of Colin Chapman, and Chapman that is holding on to a position. He started 5th and Hovard was 6th. They shared the third row together, and Hovard gets a big twitch under power coming through Club. Did well to save it, but lost quite a lot of ground, running out wide over the sausage curb there through the middle part of Club. And he will now have to try work hard to close back in. He's not the only one really wide though. Look at the rest of the field starting to run out a bit deep coming out of Club Corner. Side by side action all the way through the field though. This is for the race, for second place I should say, between Daniel Lana, number 6, and number 29 of Christopher Wesamail. And Wesamail, who qualified second on the grid, but cars, all Spicer, a late lunge up the inside. That car seems to be able to carry good speed into the corner, and these 2 cars, of course, both Spire GT3s. They're both identical cars, just set up maybe slightly different driving styles. Spicer, though, by virtue of having to back off to avoid contact, I think there is now under pressure from the car behind. So Colin could do with getting on with this. I think he is a bit quicker maybe than Hutchins, but can't quite find the way through. Have a go sometimes and make the move stick. And in cars this powerful, this quick, it's easy to lose quite a lot of momentum if you have to back out of the manoeuvre again. Hutchins runs deep, and this time Spicer with a better exit from Village, but he's still on the outside line for the link. He's close enough though, surely this time, to dive up the inside of the right-hander. He does. Hutchins again sees him coming. They run wheel to wheel through the turn and wheel to wheel out onto the hanger straight, but this is maybe where Hutchins' car, which seems to be a bit quicker in a straight line, yeah, you can see is just pulling itself back ahead. But if Spicer can stay close to him, he could go back up the inside of Stowe Corner. We've seen he's good on the brakes and good into this turn. Can he do this under braking? No, I don't think so. Hutchins just able to drag back in front down the hanger straight. He hangs on to the place, but a fascinating battle going on here. Colin Spicer getting ever more frustrated. I think he knows he's quicker, but just can't make the move stick, and again has a lunge under braking down towards Vale. For the final time though, Paul Smith is making his way through Village. He's pulled out a very comfortable lead now, some 4 seconds or so over his teammates Daniel Lana and Christopher Wesamail behind. Are they still in the same order? I wonder, because we've seen that they've been battling closely since the start of the race. Paul Smith, though, definitely is the leader. And no, look, we have had the change behind. So Wesamail is now 2nd and Lana down to 3rd. So somewhere out of our sight, 2nd place has changed hands. But that matters little, really, to Paul Smith, who is about to take a race victory. And what a significant victory it could be, because Billy Albone in trouble. It looks as though they may not even finish the race, we're hearing. So Paul Smith makes his way down towards Vale. And with only a corner to go now, looks as though he's going to take a victory. More importantly, a decent chunk of championship points out of the championship leader Billy Olbourne. Across the line he goes, and it's a race victory for Paul Smith for the third time this year. He's not quite up to Billy Olbourne's 6 race victories for the season, but there is time yet for him to match him, especially if he keeps this sort of performance going. It's a second place finish for Christopher Wesmail, and Daniel Lana comes home third. So Mattel 1, 2, 3 then, Smith from Wesmail from Lana, then the Sabre of Tim Hovard, who got ahead of Colin Chapman late on, and Colin Chapman leads this whole host of Spires. David Watson 6th, Mark Betts 7th, then Phil Hutchins, Colin Spicer and Stephen Dean, with Jonathan McGill, Ryan Yarrow and the contour of Drew Faulkner, the last of the cars to finish, and confirmation there, Danny Andrew and Billy Olbourne, both quite high profile.
Pole to flag, wasn't that easy though, was it?
No, the pace of my teammates was pretty good, so they got a lot from quali, and yeah, to push me out to make sure at the middle of the race I was putting in, pole times to sort of win the race. So.
Yeah, and are your teammates learning a lot from being behind you?
Well, no, not really. I think I've been behind Chippy most of the year, to be honest with you, in qualifying. So no, look, we're all good drivers, and they all deserve to be out there.
Fantastic. Well, for now, go and enjoy it.
Thank you.
Well, a change of weather this morning, overnight rain, a damp and greasy track. What's going to happen in our second Endurance Financial RGB Sports 1000 Championship race here at Silverstone? Well, it's Paul Smith and Christopher Wesmail on row 1, ahead of Billy Olbourne, who needs a good finish in this one from third on the grid, with Daniel Lana 4th, and it's Colin Chapman and Tim Hovard looking to resume their race 1 battle that saw Hovard come home just ahead in 4th position. Well, that non-finish for Billy Olbourne in race number 1 has blown the championship wide open. He really needs to try and score some good points and undo the damage against Paul Smith, our race 1 winner. The red lights go on. They will go out now. We're away and racing. The drier side of the road, remember, is the outside line, but the fastest start comes from the inside of row number 1. Christopher Wesmail leads down towards turn number 1. Paul Smith down to second place. Billy Olbourne appears to be in third, is he? Or third-ish, side by side there with the other Mattel. That will be of Daniel Lana, but Olbourne does go through in third position, so he at least has gained a position based on where he was at the start of race number 1, where he dropped behind all 3 Mattels. Now, though, he's right on the tail of the championship leader, or his championship rival, I should say, Paul Smith. They're second and third as they run down towards the right-hander onto the hanger straight. We're on board with Colin Chapman, the white car, in 5th position. Out onto the straight they go, and can the Spire of Olbourne hang on? Oh, he slows out. Oh, Billy Olbourne slowing again. I don't believe it. Billy Olbourne with mechanical dramas on the first lap of race number 2, and that could be absolutely pivotal in the championship race, because yet again, when he had a chance to go and challenge Paul Smith, it's all gone wrong for Billy, and surely that car is heading into the pit lane to retirement, or certainly a lengthy pit visit to try and figure out what the problem is. Now, whether or not it's a return of the issue that put him out of race 1, we saw him have a spin, but then he rejoined from that spin and came into the pit lane to retire with a mechanical drama. So whether that was cause or effect of the spin, we know not, but it looks as though something has derailed Billy Olbourne's challenge in race 2 as well. So Christopher Wesmail now leads the way. And Christopher, remember, he's looking for his first ever victory in the RGB Sports 1000 Championship. We're on board with Colin Chapman here in 4th position. He is now the best of the non-Mattels, is Colin Chapman in his Spire GT3. Works his way towards Village, and well, it is Wesmail that leads the way. It is Paul Smith in 2nd position and Daniel Lana in 3rd, and Smith, if he can catch Wesmail, and remember in race 1 he definitely had the pace to pull away from Christopher Wesmail behind, so there's no reason to suspect that he won't be able to catch him again in race 2. Although look at the gap that the race leader's got, actually that's almost half of the length of the hanger straight between 1st and 2nd, and we're not even at the end of lap number 2. Christopher Wesmail with a demon start from the damp side of the road. You really would not have bet on Wesmail leading into turn number 1, but he's just got on with it here. Obviously got lots of confidence in the car on cold tyres, and he's pulled a big old gap now over Paul Smith in 2nd, Lana 3rd, Chapman 4th, and no sign of Tim Hovard yet in Chapman's mirrors. That's what is going to happen in the fight for 3rd, and then the fight for 5th, though. That's where most of the entertainment is. The other 2 Mattels, front-running Mattels at least, in the race are well and truly in the thick of their own battles, both trying to defend from arguably quicker cars at this stage of the race, the 2 Spires. Mark Betts having briefly been ahead of Paul Smith just over a lap ago. Where is he going to find another way through? I suppose his best bet still is to try and make a mistake out of, try and force a mistake, excuse me, out of the car in front. The same goes for Colin Chapman here, who continues to apply the pressure to Daniel Lana. Daniel not really putting a foot wrong through this final third of the race so far. We are now into the final 3 or 4 minutes of the race, and it's been a very entertaining second Jones Financial RGB Sports 1000 Championship race at Silverstone. International circuit once again producing lots of overtaking opportunities, lots of close racing. And in this longer feature race, some interesting tyre strategies as well. And again, Daniel Lana is wayward under braking into Village and then sideways off the corner as well. Side by side are we for fifth? Not quite. Mark Betts looking to try and get that inside line again down to Chapel, where he made the move a lap or so ago on Paul Smith, who once again runs wide out to the left-hander, but then we know the Mattel has the advantage in a straight line, so he affords to come off that corner less than perfectly and still hold the position down the hanger straight. That marker is Phil Hutchins, gets out of the way of the third place battle, which works its way through back down into the Vale. We are on the final lap of the race though now, and Christopher Wezemail, this is the first we've seen of him really since the start of the race, but he has built up nearly a 35-second cushion over the rest of the field. It's been a truly dominant performance. This is, I think I'm right in saying, quite comfortably the biggest winning margin that we've seen all year long. Yes, the previous biggest was 12 seconds in race 2 at Pembrey when Paul Smith beat Billy Olbone to the race victory. Well, here it is Paul Smith's teammate Christopher Wezemail who is in even more dominant fashion. Had the first half of the season worked out better for Christopher, he definitely would have been a championship contender. As it is, he's out to score as many race wins as possible, and he scores one here at Silverstone. Across the line he goes, the first of the season for Christopher Wezemail, and what a way to do it, by over half a minute over his nearest rivals. Great stuff from Christopher. A lonely race, but he won't mind too much because he takes his first victory in the championship. Well, he takes the win, but what's going on behind? Well, I can tell you that in second position, it was David Watson ahead of Daniel Lana, who held on to third from Colin Chapman, whilst Paul Smith likewise held on to fourth ahead of Mark Betts. Then it was James Walker, Stephen Dean, Jonathan McGill and Colin Spicer to round out the top 10, ahead of Phil Hutchins and Drew Faulkner. Ryan Yarrow, Danny Andrew, Tim Hovard, Billy Olbone, another non-finish for him, and Charlie Thomas, a non-starter.
Chippy, we had rain earlier on, so the tyre choice was crucial and it paid off for you. Well done.
Yeah, I mean, the team made an excellent choice. We went with the dries, went full dry setup, complete punt, a bit of it. I know the other car was on wets and got a great start and made a gap from there, really.
Welcome back to the Heritage Parks Formula V Championship. The latest encounter sees us here at Silverstone. It marks the halfway stage of the season and Craig Pollard is top of the championship standings. However, he's only 19 points ahead of Danny Hans, who puts on pole position for this first race. So let's see how they get on. Andy McEwen, over to you.
Sunny Silverstone then plays host to the penultimate meeting of the year, and it's Daniel Hans and Graham Gant who make the front row for race 1, with Craig Pollard and Ian Jordan on row 2. Ian Buxton and Tim Probert ahead of Steve-O and Peter Belzy on the 4th row. However, it would appear that Daniel Hans for some reason has not taken up his pole position, so all on his own on row 1 is the yellow car of Graham Gant. So the WEV is on the front row alone. So this is drama immediately for the man who actually on dropped scores is only 8 points off the championship lead. It's even closer than we thought, but he's not there at the front of the grid. We'll have to see if he makes an appearance. Away we go, and a terrible start from Gant on the front row of the grid, so he will be swamped by the rest of the field as they launch down towards Abbey Corner for the first time, and Graham Gant is going to be down in about 5th or 6th place, maybe even worse by the time the first corner shuffle is done. Everyone else safely through though, which is good to see, and they work their way up towards the complex for the first time. Hard on the brakes they go. Car number 8 there is Tim Probert, the yellow machine. There is Graham Gant, who is 6th place in the championship going into this penultimate meeting of the year. He has, of course, had 3 race victories, but not had the consistency over the course of the year to be up there as a real championship contender. And a not particularly good start here at Silverstone doesn't really help his cause all that much. So now the slipstream starts to take effect, and very much like Formula Ford 1600 racing, Formula V racing relies an awful lot on the slipstream. At the front of the field, you can see is car number 92, Craig Pollard, 2 times a winner this year is Craig Pollard. He did the double at Croft earlier on in the season, and he's already pulling away at the front of the field in this one. Second position looked like it was Ian Jordan. Yes, it was, number 4. And then everyone else dicing over 3rd place. In 3rd place at the moment, working his way through there. Now, is that... I can't quite spot the number on the 3rd place car, but I think it's somebody who's moved. There's been a lot of shuffling gone on here at the start of the year. I think it's Ian Buxton who's in the 3rd position, and then Graham Gant there you can see in the 6th place, the yellow car trying to work his way up the order. But yes, it is Ian Buxton in 3rd place. then in behind him, Peter Belsey, by the looks of it, the green car. Then you've got the red number 8 of Tim Probert. And it's Belsey here who's trying to make a move for third place towards Village. He's trying to get up the inside of Ian Buxton under braking, which he almost does, but Buxton's late enough on the brakes to hang on to the position. And Peter Belsey in the unique-looking Spider Mark II is now definitely being caught by Graham Gant. Graham Gant has every chance here of taking second place before the end of the race. That would go down very, very well for him. He tries to get himself into the top 5 in the championship. Tim Probert running a bit wide through Abbey, and so Ian Buxton's now going to potentially be alongside in towards Village. Goes from the right-hand side of the road to the left-hand side of the road. Probert it is who gets into the right-hander first. Buxton, can he get the switch back on the exit? I don't think he can, so Probert hangs on to 5th place. Drops down the hill, again the wide line into the corner. Just seems to carry good speed off the turn, but then the slipstream starts to take effect. They're both being caught as well by the car behind as well, which I think is still Paul Taylor, isn't it, reeling them in. Steve-O, you can see off in the background, even further adrift, but Ian Buxton pulls to the outside of Tim Probert and drives back through. So this is turning into a really entertaining battle between these two. They're costing themselves handfuls of time to the leaders up the road, but it matters little really because they're providing lots of entertainment. Last lap begins then for the race leader Craig Pollard, who looks as though he's going to take his 3rd victory of the season. He's just behind this little battle, working his way through Abbey Corner. That was the number 9 car going up the inside. That was Richard Waddingham gaining a place. These two are likely to go a lap down before the end of the race, but they are enjoying their battle. It's number 83 that he just got past, which was Vaughan Jones. On board with Christian Lyne here, as he, sorry, with Vaughan Jones here down towards Chapel. Along the Hagler Straight, and the toe. Watch for the race leader Craig Pollard. There he is, to the right hand side. And look, trying to get every bit of slipstream that he can. Pulls in behind the next back mark. He's got no one behind him challenging him. He'll try and go as quickly as he can on this final lap. Gets to the inside of both back markers into Stone Corner. Locks up, goes through. So Craig Pollard comes out of the final corner and wins the first race of the weekend for the Heritage Park Centre Formula V Championship. Graham Gant will be second, so he got ahead of Ian Jordan in the late stages. Ian Jordan drops down to 3rd position with Peter Belsey 4th, and I believe, is it going to be Tim Probert in 5th? I think it will. So Craig Pollard takes the opening victory of the weekend from Graham Gant, Ian Jordan, Peter Belsey, and it was indeed Tim Probert 5th. Steve-O 6th, Christian Goller 7th, then Andrew Cooper, Sam Engineer, and John Hughes rounds out the top 10. And it was Daniel Hans 11th, started from the pit lane we believe, so got some points, but not as many as he'd have liked, ahead of Mark Egan, Jamie Harrison, David Lenuski and Ed Lowndes, who rounds out the top 15. Non-finishes, well, Ian Buxton pulled off into retirement towards the end, so too did Paul Taylor. Alex Jones, Dave Wallace, Phil Waterhouse and Colin Gregory also failed to finish.
Well, Craig, I spoke to you before the race. You said there was more pace. Did you expect to have that sort of gap at the end of the race?
Probably not the gap that we did have, to be fair. But yeah, I thought we'd made some move forward from qualifying, so it did translate into the race.
Well, slightly different conditions here for race number 2, with Graham Gant and Daniel Hans this time on the front row, ahead of Craig Pollard and Ian Jordan, Ian Buxton and Tim Probert, then Peter Belsey and Steve-O. Peter Belsey in particular should move forward, so too should Paul Taylor from the 5th row, with Colin Gregory alongside, rounding out the top 10. What is another packed grid of 31 cars for the Heritage Park Centre Formula V Championship. Now that non-finish for Daniel Hans, or not non-finish, but a start from the pit lane in race 1 for Daniel Hans, which eventually gave him an 11th place finish, means that he has lost some ground in the championship, but that now becomes his worst finish of the year, so it becomes one of his drop scores. We'll get into that in more detail during the race though, because for now the lights are out and away we go. And this time Graham Gant makes a much better start from pole position. In race 1 he didn't go anywhere, dropped all the way down to about 5th or 6th off the line. This time around though he will hold the lead from Daniel Hans down towards turn number 1. Craig Pollard is 3rd, Ian Jordan 4th, Tim Probert 5th, and Peter Belsey already up in position from 7th on the grid into 6th at turn 1. Now there is a bit of drizzle in the air, there's been some overnight rain as well, so no one really quite knows what the conditions are going to be like out there this morning. But yesterday's bright and sunny conditions seem an awfully long time ago. In towards Village they will go. There's the 56 going around the outside, and the car side, there's 28 going around. That's Sam Engineer rotating, and another car running wide as well behind him. So a few drivers already coming a cropper in the very slippery conditions, very greasy conditions here this morning at Silverstone. 23 there, Alex Jones trying to gain ground, but it is Gant that leads the way down the straight for the first time into second place by the looks of it, and now challenging for the race lead. Going up the inside, in fact, is Craig Pollard. So Pollard has gone from third to first in about 2 corners, and Daniel Hans trying to follow him through. And this is really important because, of course, Daniel Hans and Craig Pollard are still first and second in the championship. At the moment, they are separated on the road by Graham Gant, and indeed they continue to be separated on the road by Graham Gant as they turn into Vale. Gant knows a bit wide. Daniel Hans trying to team up on the exit, gets up the inside in towards the second part of Club Corner. Gant's going to turn in. They can't afford any contact here, and it's all allowing Craig Pollard to pull away. It also gives Ian Jordan a run down the pit straight now, so the 3 of them head down towards Abbey Corner pretty much as one. Daniel Hans on the inside, and Peter Belzy's in there as well, going up the inside of Ian Jordan for 4th position. They'll run wheel to wheel through the corner, and that just takes a bit of the pressure away from Daniel Hans slightly, who really needs to get past Graham Gant as quickly as possible. Here he goes up the inside line down towards Village Corner, and through he goes. So Daniel Hans goes into second place, Peter Belzy goes into 4th, so it's all changed around here in the early stages. Ironically, the slippery conditions actually leading to much more entertaining racing immediately than we had, at least right at the front of the field in race 1. There was stuff going on further back, but at the front of the field in yesterday's race, Craig Pollard was able to pull away to a fairly convincing victory. Well, he's trying to do the same thing now, but his big rival in the championship, Daniel Hans, is on his case now in second place. So the gap between them on dropped scores is now 17 points at the front of the field, with Ian Jones a further 3 back, so 20 points cover, sorry, Ian Jordan, excuse me, a further 3 back, so 20 points cover the leading 3 in the championship. But Ian Jordan is not really a part of this lead battle at the moment. So Ian, who was 3rd in yesterday's race in car number 4, seconds a lap quicker than, and if you catch them midway through a sequence of corners like the Village and Loop section or Vale and Club at the end of the lap, it can really hurt your momentum through the corner and cost you ground. It now becomes even more pivotal though, because we're on to the final lap of the race, and Graham Gant, who will feel that he missed an opportunity to win a race in race 1. He started essentially from pole position with the demise of Daniel Hans, and didn't get the start, ended up fighting back to finish in second place, but it could have been the victory. Well, this time around he's just less than a lap away from maybe taking the checkered flag in race 2, but we've got that long drag down the Hanger Straight coming up now. It is Pollard in second, it's Belzy 3rd, and Daniel Hans down to 4th place. Is that going to be the order they finish in? I highly doubt it. On board with Ian Jordan as they go out onto the Hanger Straight this time around. The final time of asking, half a lap to go, but what's going on up at the front of the field? They're surely going to be jostling for position down towards Stowe Corner. You can see them running side by side off in the distance, but who is going to get through Stowe as the race leader? I think that Pollard has found a way through ahead of Graham Gant as they turn through the right-hander, so that's another car now potentially between he and his rival Daniel Hans. It is Pollard that leads the way. There's a back marker up the road as well though. Oh, the inside comes Daniel Hans. He launches an attack on Graham Gant. He knew that he couldn't allow Pollard to get any further ahead. Craig Pollard is going to take the race victory here in race number 2, a double race victory in fact here at Silverstone to extend his championship margin, but Daniel Hans with damage limitation comes home in second place. Peter Belzy got 3rd, and Graham Gant was mugged. He led with half a lap to go and ends up 4th at the flag. That is how important the slipstream was, and that's why you have to really think about where you position the car on the final lap of one of those slipstream thrillers that we so often get in the Heritage Parks Centre Formula V Championship. Well, a great race, one of the best races of the season actually, and it is victory for Craig Pollard from Daniel Hans in second, Belzy 3rd, Gant 4th, Paul Taylor 5th, and Ian Jordan down in 6th. That pretty much puts him out of the championship fight now. Tim Probert was 7th ahead of Alex Jones, John Hughes and Jamie Harrison rounding out the top 10. Then it was Andrew Cooper, Mark Egan, Ed Lowndes, David Lanuski and Richard Waddingham who rounded out the top 15. We had a couple of non-finishers, Colin Gregory and Christian Goller, and also Steve O, whilst Francis Twyman was excluded from the result for overtaking under yellow flags. Steve O was a non-starter actually, so too Dave Wallace, and unfortunately Ian Buxton.
Danny, you've made up for the misfortunes of yesterday, second place, well earned.
Yeah, it's a really, really exciting race to drive. It could have been anyone's. We're literally drafting each other the whole entire race. So offline was a little bit greasy, but if you were brave enough to go around there, there was grip. So, but yeah, really, really exciting race to drive.